Ladies, we will get started today. I have our today's goal on the board, so I'm going to let Leanne read that for us.
What's on the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Today's goal: establish the expectation of small group instruction. Need and focus: how can I plan small group instruction explicitly, intentionally, and with good purpose? And the reflection: how can a small group routine help in implementing a small group plan successfully?
Okay, so we're going to wait and do a reflection right at the end. And Miss Sandy Jo, if you're not here to do that, then I'll let you take your little binder and work on that before we get back. Hopefully you'll, maybe they can share with you what we've gone over, and maybe you'll be here long enough to maybe get a little bit from this. We are going to be looking at our Unit 2 assessments. We are ready to put those in a spreadsheet online in just maybe a little bit. So the first thing I want us to do when we're thinking about Unit 2 is to tell me a little bit about the test. I know there were 2 different ones, I think, so I'll hush and let y'all tell me in just a minute. So when you're reflecting about what went on with these, or what did we see, and what our students are going to need, and what does the data show us, reflect maybe a little bit about your scoring, what you used as far as the anything in the teacher's guide that was helpful for you. If you would let us know that, that would be great too. So Leslie, we'll just start off with you. Just take a minute or two and reflect on what you saw with your...
Well, overall, I thought my kids did really good on this one. Their writing strokes, I noticed they improved from the last unit that we did in Unit 1. I did use the guide because some of them I might have been a little questionable about, like if I might have scored them as them being progressing. Well, they actually might have been like maybe not ready yet, but I only had like 1 or 2 that I really had to kind of look at. But then the last part of it, where they were supposed to like blend the sounds and stuff, overall, I mean, not bad, because they're really working hard, and I'm really making sure we are tapping those sounds out and blending them together so you could hear them doing, you know, like they were doing that while we were taking our test. So
Okay.
I thought they did really, really well. I mean, they were definitely hearing those sounds for the most part.
All right, Sandy.
I agree with Leslie. They actually did better than I thought. I think it's where I'm a little better teaching this than I was last year, maybe. I might play into it a little bit.
All right. So what about, we know the blending in Unit 2 is really important. So what did that look like in your classroom?
I think they're really doing a lot of blending like quick, because we're already working on blending at the teacher table too.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
I think the biggest thing is making sure, like when I say, okay, well, I do it, you do it, and then we're gonna blend it together. Because a lot of mom want to blend it after I, you know, segment it out. So that was the main thing, is making sure, like, okay, you need to do this too, because you need to see how, you know, like, you need to be in the moment doing it, so you understand it.
Though, making sure that, yes, I am watching, I am seeing, I know.
So it's like, I need to make sure that you know how to do it. I was like, I know you may be able to blend the word already, but I need to know that you can segment those sounds out. So.
Great. All right, Ms. Leanne, what did you?
I think so too. Like, I think modeling that like over and over, and even we're using our fingers and doing the tapping thing with it too at the teacher table. We're doing that, and they're getting a lot better at blending. And mine did really good on Unit 2. I was really proud of them. They did a lot better, and their strokes were a lot better. And I had very few to miss, really to miss a lot on the blending. I was really proud of them.
Great. So we know who those students are, right? We know who to target, who to
Pulling them back and
support.
working with them.
All right, great. Good to hear that. All right, Miss Ashley.
Basically the same thing. The writing strokes have definitely improved. I have a few that's still struggling with certain strokes, but even they have improved since Unit 1. So I mean, I'm seeing progress, I guess, with every single kid. Some of them aren't exactly
Target.
mastered it.
Yes.
But I think that's gonna come just because we're
Practice.
riding every day.
Right.
So I think that'll come. And,
So why do you think that they've improved from the,
well, I mean, just because we're riding every day, we're doing it with Play-Doh still. I think that's just helping build those muscles, because several of mine are still struggling on how to hold a pencil. So I think once we can get those muscles stronger and get those pencils being held correctly. As far as the blending goes, they're doing okay. They're doing better.
so how will we make sure, how are we gonna make sure that they are able to do this? How do we know?
I mean, pulling them back to teacher table with us
Just
is a lot
every
better.
the
Practice.
same routine every
Yes.
single day.
Just have to drill it.
Being very intentional, right? Not just taking for granted that if they're up there and they're doing it with us, sometimes we think, oh, all right, they're back there and they're just doing this, but if we brought them back and we said, let's blend this work together, can they really do that? What does that look like? So it sounds like that's what you're doing. It sounds like that could be, if we're kind of questioning the data, that we could do the small group, right, and bring them back. So today, what we're going to talk about, because we know it's going to get a little bit harder and the tests are going to get a little bit more intense, I guess we might say, we're going to look at the ARG and look at the lesson structures that are on page 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I want you to get your ARG. And to me, this is kind of like a routine, the routine of what small groups would look like. So you may need a sheet of paper to kind of take some notes on this, because I'm going to have you to notice and wonder about these lesson structures. So the first thing I want you to do when you're looking at these lesson structures is to think about, first of all, how many are there that we can use? How are they alike and how are they different? And most important, Ashley and I had this little conversation a day or two ago, how do I decide which one of these I'm going to use? So that's something that we're all learning together too. And we're going to work a little bit on that today. So I want you to look at those pages and notice and wonder. And I want you to write down some notes about what you're seeing, and then we'll discuss this. I'll probably let each one of you take one in a minute and just tell me a little bit about that structure, maybe how long it is, and exactly what goes on with those, what those structures are about. So let's use, Miss Tina, what time is it? Which time?
1:29.
We still have 30 minutes. We have 30 minutes? Oh, great. So let's take about 5 to 10 minutes and let's look at those three and then we'll come back and discuss them. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on identifying those structures that we could use for our small groups. If you want to take notes while someone is talking about a particular one, or you want to add something to what they're saying, just let me know. We'll give you time to also talk about it. First of all, how many lesson structures are there in the ARG? What did you say?
3.
There's 3. Right, so that's perfect. All right, so Miss Ashley, I'm going to let you talk a minute about the guided reinforcement lesson structure. Tell us about what you're thinking about that is.
It's more about the shorter lesson. They're just about 15 minutes, and it's basically you're targeting like one skill that they're needing help with that they haven't mastered. So kind of like an abbreviated lesson.
Okay. All right, anyone want to add anything to that from your notes?
That's pretty much what I wrote.
Okay, no really independent practice on that, no time for that, so it's like we said, it's more of, I've just got a few minutes, so I can do a warm-up and
And it's not got really any explicit teaching, it's just guided practice.
okay, so maybe it's not really been a hard skill for them, and I might wanna just kind of touch up on that, so I might use this, guided reinforcement. All right, good job. All right, Leslie, let's let you talk about the explicit reteaching.
Well, it's more of a complete lesson compared to the guided. It basically has, I guess you could say, more, you're working with more skills, and you're actually progress monitoring them in this lesson as well.
Okay, anything else? Anybody want to add? About how long is
25 minutes.
25 minutes, give or take? So you would need quite a bit of time, right? And also, something that I noticed was it was a more complete reteaching for a specific unit objective. So you do have more time to really explicitly reteach that objective that they missed. All right, good job. Leanne, I'll let you take the...
Okay, the comprehensive, it's just it's just longer and it's a lot more, it covers a lot more. It has like multiple sections of comprehensive help for students. So it's kind of a longer time frame, so you can cover more of those things that they're really struggling with.
Okay.
It has a lot of dependent practice.
What else did you notice that you might have to do with that
Model.
particular? Okay.
I think it even said something about you could break it up into multiple days.
sections,
two
different
sections.
You may not get it all done in.
Yeah.
That's a long time for a kindergartner, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
40
I mean,
Yeah, 40 minutes.
are you
is
going to
long.
be able to keep their attention for 40 minutes in a small group? No. So we know we are going to have to adjust the time for that. So if there are multiples, what else did you notice about that one?
I noticed that you're supposed to be just focusing like on one focus.
Exactly.
Skill.
So if there are a couple of different ones that your students or that particular student is behind on, we might want to take 20 minutes for one and focus on that, and then the next lesson do the other one and focus on that. So being that we have learned a little bit about what the lesson structures look like, something that I found really that would be helpful for that is on page, I think it's page 15, so I want you to look at that in your ARG. What do you think this is on that page?
Isn't this what we
the
use?
flow map? I mean,
This is kind of like what if they struggled.
like if they're
Oh,
struggling
unit two
with
test.
part 2, you're gonna do
Like a
this.
rubric.
And if they're struggling with the whole objective, you're gonna go that way.
That one kind of looks easy compared to the one we did at the end of the year last year where we had,
Yes.
if they can do this, you go here, or if they can't do this, we go over here. So if we use this, that's really gonna help us learn how to use those lesson templates or maybe which one to use, right? So if they're struggling with, I think it says 5 or less on part 2 of the unit 2 test, which was the blending, right? Then this is what they would do, then this is what you could use right here. So it's just laid out for you, and then guess what? Right behind it begins the lesson templates where you are focusing on syllables. It gives you ideals for warm-up, explicit instruction, and a guided practice, independent practice. So, here's a sample remedial lesson. Miss Tammy, did you want to?
I had a question. What page did that start on, Deb? I was trying to follow you in foundational.
All right, so we're on the ARG and it begins, I was referring them to page 15.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So once we've looked at our data and we know that we have some students that have these, that are struggling, have these deficits, and we don't know where to go, what to do, then this is going to help us determine, knowing their needs, where to go in the ARG, basically. So, there's your lesson templates coming up. And as a guide, so what we're going to do, and for the rest of our time, Miss Tina, how much time do we have since my phone is dead?
We've got about 15 to 18 minutes.
Okay, so for about the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you time to think about a lesson structure. And I'm going to give you a few minutes to begin planning a lesson for blending, okay? For that particular, since that's kind of the biggie and we think our writing's going pretty good and we know that we're going to be working on that every day. So let's go through and let's study those lesson templates and see if we can get some ideals of what that looks like. And then next week, our bring back will be to bring back this lesson that we have worked on for a small group. So Ms. Tina, we're going to do about 8 to 10 more minutes and let them work on that. If you need any help, I'm not saying I can. Think about which one would you probably most likely want to start off using right now, since you've not covered many units.
And which lesson structure?
Which lesson structure?
I mean, I've been more doing a guided with them because right now we're kind of just, we're yes,
Yeah.
trying to get used to being in this group with me a little, like slowly. But more or less, I will probably end up moving to the explicit.
Right.
All right, so would you want to do a guided one right now and think about, that's 2 parts, right?
Yes, ma'am. The warm up and the practice.
And a guided practice. And probably right now, at this time of the
Because it's
year.
just their attention span with me.
Exactly.
Even though because I'm like basically going from here and
Right.
swinging over. Like,
So-
It's 15 minutes.
yes.
Right, so let's think of about 3 minutes of a warm-up
Okay.
that we could do. And then about 10 to 12 minutes probably of what activities, what you would want to do for guided practice where they're applying the skills. So I will write that down if that's what we're going to. Okay, so let's talk just a minute, and then you all are going to have a week or so to perfect your small group lesson plan. I can't wait to see it. Maybe you would have time to implement it, try it out. That would even be better. Later on, Ashley and I were discussing too about, the other day, about small groups within the Tennessee foundational lessons, right? Where you bring a group up and the other group reads. So that looks more like what first and second grade are kind of doing. So with first and second right now, we're working on what does small groups look like in Tier 1. Okay? So this is kind of different. This will be like Tier 2 students probably, maybe that we're,
The ARG.
yes,
Yes.
kind of
Yes,
like,
this is more.
Yeah.
not saying that you cannot use it when you're pulling small groups for the other. So we talked about small group routine as far as always having an out of text where you're working on skills, that's the yellow chart, in text where you're starting to work with those decodables, because before too long, I guess, when do you start using your
It's
decodables?
usually,
Is it 8 or 6?
I think it's 6.
6, so about another, what, 5,
Maybe
3 or
3,
4
so.
units, you start getting into the decodables. So then, when you're doing those,
It'll be after, it's
Right.
after the year.
small groups in your foundational skills lesson, you might want to do a little bit different. So we will work on that and what that looks like, what that routine might look like. It may change a little bit.
Okay.
But then you really want to get on the skills for those tier 2 students also. So we're good, we can mix and mingle, but, all right, so let's take a minute and let's do a reflection on the sheet of paper that I gave you, and if I can help you in any way with the lesson plan, or I can't wait to hear about them next week. So let's take about 2 or 3 minutes and we'll work on our reflection.